こんにちは、ハリケーンフットボールです。今回の教材は、リーズユナイテッドの田中碧に関する動画です。リーズユナイテッドはプレミアリーグ第8節でバーンリーとアウェーで対戦し、2対0で敗戦しました。田中碧は81分から途中出場しましたが、大きなプレーと言えるようなものはありませんでした。リーズファンのチャンネルであるOne Leedsでは、田中碧が見せた少しの出場ながら、この試合では、田中碧が先発すべきだったと言い、次戦以降も田中碧が出るべきだという主張を強めています。実際にどのように話しているのか、チェックしてみましょ
う。Yeah, I think Tanaka had to start today. I think we mentioned it in the preview when it comes to an orchestrator, a dictator of play against the Burnley side. You can have the athleticism, the physicality, the blood and thunder, which we love at Ellen Road, and the big tackles, and you have the enforcement across the pitch. But then you need a difference maker in there. And the best player, technically, in this Leeds United side, especially when it comes to that passing ability, is Tanaka. You get him in with a blend of physicality and athleticism, get Tanaka on the ball from moment one, it starts to tick a little bit, you know? Tanaka is a deep line playmaker, in my opinion. And also, at this moment in time, what we have to bear in mind as well, everybody, is we are utilising Anton Stack as a number 8. He's a 6. So can we vary that as well, you know? Can we have a little bit of moving parts, you know? Can you have maybe Stack dropping off into the number 6 at points? And Purdue Press going a little bit higher into that number 8. You know, can you have Tanaka in an advanced number 8 role, which we don't see enough of? It's always Tanaka coming on and almost being that sweeper just between the centre-backs. Why don't we have Stack doing that from a deep line position and just vary it a little bit? Vary a little bit in that midfield, not being so predictable. You know, could we see a little bit more from Stack in terms of those threaded balls through from a deeper position? Because I can tell you for a fact, playing in the number 6 and the number 8 is a completely different outlook. I've done it myself plenty of times. Playing in the number 8 is completely different to playing in the 6. Could we see a better Anton Stack in the number 6 where he's played for Hoffenheim in Germany? Potentially. But we're not utilising that. We're not varying it. But I do miss Tanaka at this moment in time. Have to say. Johnny Cooper's put, we'll get this on screen as well. You guys might be interested in this one. Hold on a sec. This will be interesting for you to see. When it comes to Johnny Cooper, obviously brilliant stat guy when it comes to Leeds. Johnny's just put this on. So a pretty failed ploy by Leeds today. Get the ball into the box. This was the most crosses by a team in the Premier League game this season, 47. And most by Leeds in a league game for over 5 years. Bearing in mind the context for this as well is what were the crosses like into the box? You know, where was the when the ball was into the box and there was initial contact from Burnley, which the majority of the time there was initial contact by Burnley. Where was the second contact by Leeds or the third contact by Leeds? There wasn't, was there? So we're putting 47 balls into the box. I count maybe Metcha over the bar. Metcha header on goal. I can't think of anything. That is shocking. 47 crosses. How many of them were good crosses? That's the context for me. But how do we find a positive here? Can I say something as well? You know, when we're talking about, and I'll get on to Stevie's super chats in a sec. You know, when we're talking, guys, about Daniel being the fall guy. I don't want to go on this too much, right? As I've said at the very beginning, you've got the ability on the bench to go 3 at the back and push very productive wing backs further up the pitch. You don't need to worry about Harrison and Aronson. You don't need to worry about it. Level of pragmatism, put 3 at the back, 2 in the middle. Let's have Stack in a 6th position. And Purdue next to him. Let's match up against Uga Chukwu and Florentino Luis in there. And let's have Tanaka pressing a little bit further forward on Cullen in that defensive role, of which Tanaka's a much better technical footballer than Cullen. There might be a little bit more joy there. Not Tanaka in a deep line playmaker role, Put Stack in his original position in a number 6 next to Ampadu, if you want. Put Tanaka a little bit further up. You've got that cover there with 2 6s. Tanaka a little bit further up, and then put Peru, Mecha, DCL, or DCL Peru. You've got options. This is why I'm not taking it away from the gaffer. No way. Change of system. You don't have to play Tom and Jerry on either side. You don't have to play Laurel and Hardy on either side. You don't have to do it. Change the system. But for some reason, there's a rhetoric amongst a lot of Leeds fans. How can you expect him to do that? What do you mean? Isn't he earning a massive amount of money as a Premier League manager? Can he not change systems? Can we not do that for the better of Leeds United? Can that not happen? It's staggering to me. Staggering. And I always mention Thomas Frank because there is a level of which Leeds are trying to replicate, in my opinion, what Brentford have done. Thomas Frank came out in an interview at Brentford and said, we focus on physicality, getting a certain height and depth of player, which is what he said in his interview. He also said that it's all about winning your 50-50s. And he said, being strong defensively, defending that edge of the box and hitting teams on counter-attacks. For me, it's evident that Leeds have tried to follow that blueprint this season, I think, personally. I think because Thomas Frank is he's a bit of a, I think he's very articulate. I think he's followed the blueprint of the Premier League as well. But the reason I mention Frank is because he's got 2 different strands. When Brentford play against a team who they think they can beat, and Brentford play against a team who they think they might not beat, but they might nick something off Arsenal, Man United, Man City. 3-5-2 and a 4-3-3. Why can we not emulate that? Is it beyond the realms of possibility for a manager to have that in his back pocket? I don't think it should be in 2025, when how important systems are and the lack of importance there is on individual quality and these mavericks in the game nowadays. It's all about system-based production.
次は解説です。今回は新しいボキャブラリーもいくつかありましたし、便利なものや知っておくべき重要なものもありましたので、早速本日の解説をチェックしてみましょ
う。When it comes to an orchestrator or dictator of play.
ディクテーターという単語は、もともと政治的な場面で使われる言葉で、独裁者という意味があります。一方で、日常会話や比喩的な場面でもよく使われ、他人に意見を言わせず、自分のやり方を押し通す人というニュアンスで使われます。サッカーやスポーツでは、試合を完全に支配する選手をディクテーターと表現することもあります。文脈によってはネガティブにもポジティブにもなる言葉です。イントネーションやトーンによっても印象が変わるため、注意して使いましょ
う。When it comes to an orchestrator or dictator of play, when it comes to an orchestrator or dictator of play, you can have the athleticism, the physicality, the blood and thunder.
ブラッド&サンダーは直訳すると血と雷ですが、実際には荒々しくて情熱的な場面や激しいぶつかり合いを意味します。特にサッカーなどのスポーツ中継、映画、演劇、さらには歴史ものの小説などでよく使われます。また、何かを感情的に熱く語るシーンにも使われることがあります。単なる暴力ではなく、熱気や衝突、ドラマ性を強調する比喩的表現です。イメージ的には、エネルギーがぶつかり合うといった感じです。
You can have the athleticism, the physicality, the blood and thunder. You can have the athleticism, the physicality, the blood and thunder. When we're talking, guys, about Daniel being the fall guy.
フォールガイは直訳すると落ちる男ですが、実際にはスケープゴート、つまり責任転嫁される人を意味します。この表現は特定の失敗や問題の責任を一人に押し付けるときによく使われます。本人に大きな過失がなくても、周囲の都合で責任者にされるニュアンスが強いです。ニュースや職場の会話、スポーツ解説など、様々な場面で登場し、スケープゴートよりもカジュアルかつ口語的な響きを持つ表現です。日常会話で皮肉を込めて使われることもあります。
We're talking, guys, about Daniel being the fall guy. We're talking, guys, about Daniel being the fall guy. And there's a rhetoric amongst a lot of Leeds fans.
レトリックは、習字やレトリックとして古代ギリシャから使われてきた言葉で、スピーチや説得の技術を指します。もともとはポジティブな意味で、言葉の力を称賛するものでしたが、現代英語ではネガティブな意味でも非常によく使われます。特に政治やビジネスの場面で、口先だけで実行が伴わない主張や、 本質をぼかす言葉として非難されることが多いです。文脈によって評価が180度変わるので注意が必要な単語です。
There's a rhetoric amongst a lot of Leeds fans. There's a rhetoric amongst a lot of Leeds fans. Thomas Frank is you know, he's a bit of a I think he's very articulate.
アーティキュレートは考えをはっきり伝えるや言葉を明瞭に使えるという意味の単語です。形容詞として使うと言語化能力が高い人や話し方が理路整然としている人を表します。動詞としては自分の意見や感情を明確に言葉にするという行為を指し、スピーキング力の高さを褒める際によく使われます。ビジネス、プレゼン、教育、リーダーシップなど幅広い分野で使われる重要語です。
Thomas Frank is you know, he's a bit of a I think he's very articulate. Thomas Frank is you know, he's a bit of a I think he's very articulate because he's got two different strands.
ストランドは状況によって意味が大きく変わる語です。最も基本的な意味は髪の毛や糸の一本といった細くて長いものですが、ビジネスや学術の文脈では議論や理論などの要素や側面を意味することがよくあります。例えば、この問題には複数のストランドがあるというと、多面的な観点が存在するという意味になります。物理的な意味と抽象的な意味を持つ重要な語彙の一つです。
Because he's got two different strands. Because he's got two different strands. Why can we not emulate that?
エミュレートは単に真似をするというよりも、優れた人や事例を手本にして、自分も同じレベルを目指す努力をするという前向きな意味を持つ動詞です。エミュレーターといえば、あるシステムや機器の動作を別の環境で再現したり、模倣するソフトウェアやハードウェアのことを指しますが、特にビジネスや教育の文脈では、成功例を参考にするや、ロールモデルに習うといった時に使われます。イミテートよりも洗練された響きがあり、努力や尊敬のニュアンスを伴います。使いこなせると、文章に深みが出ます。
Why can we not emulate that? Why can we not emulate that?
いかがでしたか？リーズユナイテッドファンからすると、なかなか期待通りの結果が出ないこともあり、そんな中で絶対に勝ちたかった同じ昇格組のバーンリー戦で、試合の大半を支配しながらも、結果としては2対0と完敗とも言えるものだったことからも、点を取る必要性や、よりクリエイティブな選手が必要だと感じているのでしょう。このワンリーズのコナーだけでなく、他のリーズファンも、具体的な理由がなくても、現状を変える必要性や、特にアントン・スタックが当初よりも目立たなく感じていることなどからも、田中碧が出場すべきだと考えるファンが増えているように感じます。チームがそれほどうまくいっていない中、田中碧の出番が増えてくるのは間違いないと思いますので、また次戦以降に田中碧がプレーすること、さらには良いパフォーマンスを見せてくれることを期待し、楽しみにしたいと思います。本日もご視聴いただきありがとうございました。またすぐにお会いしましょう。